Okay, I'm going to call to order this regular meeting of council. First, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the traditional unceded territory of the Snanawas First Nation. First item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda. I'll just make that motion that the December 10th, 2025 regular council meeting be adopted with additional information for item 7B. Just make sure I got this correct. Yeah, just I think for 7B only. Look at the staff. Yeah, just additional information for 7B.
And also, Your
Oh.
Worship, there was one motion that we meant to put on the agenda from Councillor Lerner, and there's a copy at everybody's
Okay.
station there.
So additional information for item 7B, and there's a late motion. We'll just treat it as a late motion. We've got plenty of time this evening to get to it, so. Okay, is there a seconder? So second by Councillor Savage. Anything further with the agenda? Okay, hearing nothing, I'll move to call in question. All those in favor and opposed, that is carried unanimously. That takes us right away off to Mayor and Council verbal updates. So Councillor Savage, we'll start with you if you wish.
Yes, just wanted to say the turnout was the biggest yet for the Christmas tree lighting and the fire parade. Lit up with Christmas lights. It was terrific, and this was started by volunteers 8 years ago, so just shows you how valuable volunteers are to our community, that they would start something like this, and it's pretty well running on its own. Doesn't, and still by volunteers, Rotary Club, Fire Department, and so on. So thank you.
Councillor Jones.
Just echo what Councillor Savage said. It's an excellent evening, fine weather, and amazing job. The fire trucks were fantastic this year. Yeah, everything was bigger and better.
For myself, not much to report, but again, just extend a huge thank you to the fire department and its volunteer members for the amazing show that they put on. And it just keeps getting better and better every year, and the event keeps growing, and it's fantastic. And as Councillor Savage said, it started with a handful of residents or volunteers, very grassroots, and now it's morphed into something that's huge. And yeah, it's great. So, and also to the Rotary, they obviously have joined ranks, and also with other, different activities in the community, including the food drive that the fire department and Rotary do together. So, excellent all-around effort this holiday season. So, at this point, we'll move on in the agenda. So we will move on to item 5, public input. So persons recognized by the chair to speak must first state their name and address for the record and may speak once for up to 2 minutes unless council resolves otherwise. They are limited to providing comment regarding the items listed on this evening's agenda, including public hearing topics for which we have not held a public hearing. So if there's something like the long-term care facility that people wish to speak to this evening, we have not held a public hearing, so that is fair game. Comments must be directed to the chair. It must not be directed to individual council members, staff, or the audience. It must not include personal issues. Also, when people are speaking, no booing, no clapping. We need to make sure everybody feels invited to speak at the microphone. So at this point, anybody remotely registered this evening? Okay, and then through to the gallery, anybody wishing to speak? So if you want to speak to an agenda item, this is the time to speak to it. You got to come to the microphone and press the little button, make it go red. Should go green. That would be the logical thing. Yeah. No, on the base. There you go. And maybe just bend it down to your mouth so it picks up the recording. Thank you. And just name and address for the record, and then you've got 2 minutes.
My name is Grant Lantzville, 6905 Rosalind Crescent, Lantzville. And I just want to clarify my position as fully supportive of a long-term care facility at 3 to 4 stories, not 6 stories. The building will literally be looking into my backyard. That said, our neighborhood is of greatest concern for all of us. First point is a staff planner stated that the changes will be minimal impact on surrounding residential properties, and strategic plan objectives tout high quality neighborhood planning. What are we missing here? Second point, I have no doubt in my mind that the future development, 6930, will be 6 stories, and the adjacent properties also will be 6 stories in a rural neighborhood. Third point is I have every confidence when this gets to public hearing that the residents of Lantzville will speak up and they will be hearing about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Additional speakers? And again, just name and address for the record, and you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, Hans Larson, 7010 Owen Road. Mayor and Council, at the risk of repeating myself again, we recognize and support the need for more long-term care and hospice beds in the region. However, on every level, it feels like it's being insinuated into our acreage neighborhood with very flimsy reasoning. Although the initial results from the Freedom of Information request I made to Island Health on their choice for the siting of this facility are fuzzy, I can make out that the grade they gave to the current site is poor, while the other 4 remaining sites in the Nanaimo area were either average or good. Staff report issues. The changes will have a minimal impact on surrounding residential properties. Not might or could, but will. How could the author possibly know that? With all the impacts, traffic, parking, 2-year construction period with dust, noise, traffic, and traffic disruptions, operating noises in dark sky. At the November 12th council meeting, Island health staff said that the proposed daycare would be available for community use, but the staff report says the original government announcement included a 37-space employee use daycare, which is correct. As you can probably guess, I am the neighbor who complained about the lack of posting of the notification signage in accordance with bylaw 37, 2005. I actually had 3 complaints about the sign: the initial lack of it, the specific wording on it, and the fact that it appears to be on the district's right-of-way. The public engagement report in the November 12th agenda package contains a mathematical error. It lists the total number of attendees as 175, yet if you add the individual numbers, you get 125, a 29% decrease, and that's assuming each one is unique. There were a total of 20 generally positive comments, and assuming an average of 2 comments per person, that would represent 10 people.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you there. That's 2 minutes, but I think there's not a lineup at the microphone this evening, so we can extend by a minute by unanimous consent. Council, any objections? Okay, so you got 1 more minute.
Okay, thank you. That would represent 10 people, 8% of the total. I'm not even sure that would be considered statistically significant results. I also note that while I spoke at length to Ms. McKay at the open house that I attended, none of what I said made it into the report. I did follow that up in writing, but apparently not in time to make the report. While the open houses were at different times of the day and one was on a Saturday, they were all held during the first week back to school, a very busy time for everyone. The proposal is not consistent with section 722 of our OCP, and there's no provision for the required parkland. This facility is clearly needed within the region, but on all counts, it doesn't belong in semi-rural Lantzville. Population 4,200. Thank you.
Any additional speakers this evening? Going once? Twice? Okay. So moving on, we're going to number 7 in our agenda. So under legislative matters, we have the District of Lantzville Subdivision and Development Works and Service Bylaw 175-2020 Amendment Bylaw number 426, 2025. Director Robinson will do a brief introduction, following which, through the council, you can ask clarification questions, but we're not going to get into a debate. It's a clarification to the question or to the materials that are being presented.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a brief introduction in the interest of time to get this item started. So we have amendment bylaw number 426 for the Subdivision Development and Works and Services bylaw. And as a background, just to sort of explain for the benefit of those in the crowd and those listening online, the Works and Services bylaw releases civil works for private development. So, for example, new roads when land is being subdivided. Frontage works or upgrades to existing road when land is redeveloped, and standards for new driveway, water, sewer connections. So this again all relates to private development. Council has provided a series of motions to direct staff and consultants to revise the Works and Services bylaw, which are detailed in the report. Council retained Lisa Zorn to draft the revisions to the bylaw. Various staff over the last 2 years have worked with Ms. Zorn to bring the amendments forward. And Corps Engineering provided input at various stages of the development of the bylaws that you see before you today. So I've attached a red line copy of the changes to the Works and Services bylaw as attachment 1. I just want to go over high level some of the major changes. Updates to section 3, standards for roads. It was organized into a table in section 3.7 for clarity, because before every item, every type of road was just listed as its own kind of item. So a table kind of helps to clarify things and adds the changes that council has requested. And then adding a table in section 3.30 for the sidewalks, paths, and trails. And the definitions have been revised and updated, and other clarifications have been made to the bylaws. Staff recommend that first and second reading of the Works and Services bylaw be given tonight. And then happy to answer any questions or help with any amendments that are needed when second reading comes up.
Okay, great, thank you. To the council, any questions about the presentation? Okay, hearing nothing. Great. I did. I'll just get first reading on the floor, and then we'll go from there. So I'll move that the District of Lantzville Subdivision and Development Works and Services Bylaw 175-2020, Amendment Bylaw number 426-2025 be given first reading, and seconded by Councillor Savage. And then for discussion, or actually it's not really discussion, this is just introducing the bylaw. So unless there's any technical questions around the wording of the bylaw or something to that effect, we will move to calling the question. Okay, I call the question on that. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. And then I'll get second reading on the floor that District of Lantzville Subdivision Development Works and Services Bylaw 175-2020, Amendment Bylaw number 426-2025 be given second reading, second by Councillor Savage. I just have one question to kind of lead in. In terms of if second reading is passed this evening, what is the next step?
Thank you, Your Worship. We would be bringing third reading back in January.
Okay, and between that time and now, is it going to be going out to the development community for any comment or anything in that effect?
We've already circulated some of the drafts around,
Yeah.
but if council wanted us to do like a formal notification or public information period, we could do that. It's not under any kind of statutory requirement to do so.
Okay, and just have we had much feedback from the development community?
None.
None. Okay, thank you. Councillor Savage, go ahead.
Thank you. So I've got the intention to postpone this once I hear from everyone else. There's a lot of heavy reading, which I plan on doing over December, and developing amendments to this. And my comments now, they'll be very quick because hoping to get through all our items tonight before the end of the year. So the motion that emanated on road standards was that staff be directed to contract a consultant to consult with Coors and Associates Engineering and bring forward for council consideration a draft of District of Lantzville Subdivision and Development Works and Service Bylaw number 175 to include the following amendments. A, the preferred road standard for new subdivisions and replacing current roads is to have an asphalt road with flush curbs. That means flat curbs, then gravel, grass, roadside parking on both sides of the road, then a section with a drainage swale with storm sewer pipes if required, and street trees, then a gravel or asphalt pedestrian walkway or a multi-use path, include bike lanes where possible. Where the train limits space or has other peculiarities, the order of these elements can be changed, eliminated, or be limited to one side of the road. The design of roads to replace existing roads requires approval from council. Yet on page 76 of this new proposed amended bylaw, it states, on section 2.7, roads classification, width and design. 1, roads shall be dedicated and designed in accordance with the supplementary standard detailed drawings in Appendix 1 of this bylaw based on their classification as determined by the municipal official. So that basically means nothing has changed with road designs. The design drawings to which this policy refers begin on agenda page 96. They're the same drawings council is trying to change, so nothing about road designs has been changed. And most of the wording is the same we got in June 2024 from our consultant. And we did state then we wanted this, firmly as the default road, not just up to an approval officer or municipal staff, yet most of the wording is the same. So why is this important? Because our current design roads have gravel and grass shoulders. This allows plentiful parking and allows cars to pull off the road in an emergency. This past Remembrance Day, many cars parked all along Lantzville Road, all along Ware Road, because the design allowed all this parking. This road design has served us well. This was the predominant road design in bylaw 55, which preceded bylaw 175, which was created in January 2020, and council did not direct this change. It just happened out of the blue. We had all these road design changes, and it was approved by the council at that time, but it's only recent. So in council, a mere 3 years later, this council voted to make the changes back to the former design of roads, basically. So this new bylaw 175 has the big city-style road designs with all the bells and whistles, meaning big money, big expensive storm sewer pipe systems which pipe contaminated water to the beach. Roadside parking on green shoulders is eliminated. Instead, there are limited city-style asphalt parking pullouts providing less parking spots. This means in new higher density development with suites, there will be the usual parking wars with limited street parking. The standing curbs trap water on the road, feeding it into expensive storm sewer pipe system to the beach. This is the opposite to a green infrastructure system where predominantly nature is used to absorb and clean drainage water. And the province and many municipalities support this green infrastructure. It's already been put in place some years ago. In Lantzville, council supports it, so why isn't it happening? And the street lighting, the second one very briefly, council directed street lights in new subdivisions must minimize negative effects on Lantzville's dark night skies and residents' homes and must mimic the examples of the Lone Tree development in the foothills where there are no street lights on Spence's Way and small 12-foot high poles with 12-watt lights on Harwood Drive, which is a collector road. However, this didn't happen. Instead, street lighting is left up to a municipal official or the subdivision approval officer. Approval officers must follow bylaws, but there's still nothing in bylaw 175 which directs an approval officer that dark skies policy must be followed and that the example to follow must be Spence's Way and the 12-foot high streetlights on Harwood Drive. So basically that's it for me, and it's a big money issue because as we replace roads or approve them in subdivision, then have to replace them years from now, it's the most expensive style of road, and it's a road that doesn't really work. So thank you.
Additional speakers, go ahead, Councillor Jones.
Thank you for that, Councillor Savage. Rather than repeat in my own words everything you said, I would just like to emphasize this situation we're in, where the directions of council are not really being reflected in the amendments we're seeing tonight. I would also support postponing and hope that with postponing, this can be referred back to staff so some work can be done between now and January. It was 3 years ago that this council passed the motion that Councillor Savage has detailed for bylaw 175. And since then, we've had some more work that council has done and directed, which would also impact the amendments to bylaw 175. Unfortunately, not all that information is in your background report, so I just want to go through it a little bit tonight. It has to do with the motions that council has passed with respect to active transportation and the movement of just pedestrians and bikes, that network throughout our community. It's very important that the network for movement that is not in vehicles be consistent and work together with the regulations that are in bylaw 175 with respect to roads. When Lisa Zwarm came and gave a presentation back in, I think it was July 2024, we had a discussion about routes throughout the community, the terminology that we would use going forward, and some of the standards, design guidelines that we would like, council would like in bylaw 175. So looking at those briefly, the first thing we did with Lisa Zwarm was agree that we would adopt the terminology pathways to refer to all the different types of paths that Lantzville might be building, have, or build in the future. There can be many in communities. In Nanaimo, they have about a dozen different types of pathways. In our current bylaw 175, we have one, multi-use trail. So some work needs to be done there for sure. It was agreed in our discussion that we would revise the way the discussion in the bylaw to talk about pathways as our catchword for all the different ways you might move people through the community. About that same time, council passed a recommendation from the Parks and Trails Committee to adopt design guidelines for a semi-rural trail. And we have our first built semi-rural trail from Leland to Huddlestone. It's a average 2-meter wide trail, gravel permeable surface separated from the road by a minimum of 1.5 meters. We passed a motion to have that included in bylaw 175, so that's one of the changes that we would be looking for, to have that included, have pathways included. And since then, there have been 2 more design guidelines passed by council that at some point when they should also go in, and that's for an on-road bike routes and hiking trails. And on-road bike routes tie in with road standards and with the motion that council passed to keep our semi-rural roads where we can for a number of reasons. Less expensive, provides drainage, parking. Councillor Savage has gone through them all. But the other thing that they do is they permit one to have cycling on the roads to the right of the white line. So the standard in the on-road bike routes is to have a white line, that separation line, 1.5 meters of asphalt to the right of the white line, which is very usable for bikes. And then that would be the minimum separation for before you have a semi-rural trail or some other way that you walk along the side of the road. So just briefly, I would like to send this back to staff, postpone it to January, get all the information pertaining to Parks and Trails recommendations that council has passed, ties into active transportation as well, and then we can take a second look in January. Thank you.
Additional speakers? But should we just leave you, Councillor Mandel, if you wish? Yeah, we can't hear you, just 2 seconds. I think it's our end. And you're convinced on our end it's the problem, or? Okay, try it now, Councillor Mandel.
Test,
Okay,
is that working?
all good.
Yeah, all good. Yeah, my little microphone was moving on my end, so I assumed something was getting picked up. I'm fine with postponing. I did have a read through. It did seem very thorough, and it was a lot of information, so I wouldn't mind a little more time to digest it all. So appreciate the work that's gone in, but I also would like to have a little bit closer look. So I'm fine with postponing. If that makes the most sense, and if everybody seems to be headed in that direction.
Okay, yeah, for myself, like I don't really have much to add to the conversation. For me, I'll just openly admit it's a very technical document. Um, I'm not a civil technologist, engineer, or builder. So it's going into too much depth is way above and beyond for me. However, I understand there's certain features that council would like to see embedded into the works and services bylaw here, and which makes sense. But I think in terms of the numbers and the recommendations, that all needs to be vetted by the professionals and engineers that will be reviewing this. So I understand we want to maintain, our kind of current road standards and swales and so forth, but that needs to fit into modern day engineering practices and best practices and so forth. So, anyways, I'm trusting that everything is going to bounce back to our engineers and they'll give us final recommendations on everything anyway. So at this point, Councillor Savage, did you want to make that motion then?
Yes, I move to postpone the motion on the floor to January 14th, 2026 council meeting.
Okay. And second by Councillor Jones. Anything further, Councillor Savage? Councillor Jones? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I just want to say that I look forward to these changes going into the bylaw 175, and the engineers absolutely have a look at them. Nanaimo is an excellent example. They have a trail implementation plan and the standards for almost a dozen trails laid out in there. So it's a great model for us to feed off of, so to speak. And right now, I think I'm not the only one who sees a problem when our semi-rural roads get pinched, for example, in front of Sabrina. If you're riding a bike along Lantzville Road, you come to Sabrina, all of a sudden the road narrows. People are going 50K there generally, and you have the choice of swerving sharply to the right to catch that path, or keeping on the road and feeling rather uncomfortable. Some signage will be needed there for sure, but my point is just that we need consistency in our roads, not a patchwork of roads where we have these pinchings in front of new developments that aren't consistent with where we're hoping to go in the future. Thank you.
Okay, I was actually gonna ask through the staff, like, is January 14th gonna be long enough? But I'm guessing, Director Robinson, you'll be speaking to that.
Well, the 14th is fine for postponement, but I would really appreciate some direction on what you're looking for in these upgrades. And to speak to Councillor Savage's points about lighting, section 3.41 to 3.50 is all the lighting direction that we've received, and we vetted it through the engineer. So if you're looking for specific changes to that lighting section, I really appreciate that input at this time so that we can work on that. And to speak to the trail guidelines, the specific council motions that were passed all reference them as guidelines for the trails and journeyway strategy. These motions don't speak to the fact that you wanted them included in bylaw 175. So if you do, please provide us direction to add those items. And I can take those back to our consultants and to get the engineers to look at it and get them to add it. But this has been a process that's been going through 2 different directors of public works, multiple consultants, and I'll leave it at that. But again, if there's items that are missing from the drafts you see before you, if you want changes to occur, please provide staff with that guidance so I can take that away to the consultants.
Okay, thank you. So I was just gonna comment, and so I think what I'm, hearing really is that we'll bring this back on the 14th, and at that time, council should have motions ready for that agenda that can go, be published as part of that agenda that specifically give that direction. So I understand what Director Robinson's just communicated, but if you want things explicitly added to this bylaw, we need to have them very explicitly stated in the motions. So. And at that point, again, just because we have a motion of council doesn't mean it's going to end up in that bylaw. It needs to go through that technical review by the qualified professionals and engineers and so forth. And then if it's warranted and valid and whatever else, then it will end up in the bylaw. So anyways, Councillor Jones, if you wish.
Yes, excellent. Perhaps I like Director Robinson's suggestion that we sit down and go through things. That's a great idea. Back in, I guess it was July 10th, 2024, we had a late item emergent, which was to include the semi-rural trail terminology and design guidelines, which obviously engineers will need to look at to make into engineered standards, not just design guidelines. So the motion was to include that in bylaw 175. And then in the discussion with Lisa Zworm, we talked about staff working with Lisa Zworm to keep this particular part of bylaw 175 moving forward as the pathway system envisioned for the future was laid out by council. So I'm very happy to sit down with Director Robinson and we can review all of these things. That would be great. Thank you.
Okay. All right, anything further before I call the question on the postponement? All right, all those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. Okay. So that takes us on to the next item, which is item 7B, which is the application for the official community plan and zoning bylaw amendment for 6910 Lantzville Road long-term care facility. Director Robinson, is there anything to further introduce with this? I know we're
Yeah, I'll stay seated for this one.
Sure.
On page 3 of my report, I go through the signage issue. I know council's been briefed on this matter. Essentially, for the benefit of those in the audience and those listening at home, the original application dates back to 2023. It predates every single member of the management and staff team at this table, except for the fire chief. So we've had a lot of turnover in the office here. We couldn't find any photo or proof that a sign was posted, and after we had a neighbor complain that a sign wasn't posted, we consulted with legal counsel. The advice was a sign was required, and if it wasn't posted when it came forward in 2023, Then we should be reintroducing the bylaw following the posting of the sign. Island Health posted the sign on November 25th, which is more than enough time before the council meeting. So now we are essentially reconsidering new bylaws for the long-term care facility here on December 10th. The drawings included in your package are the same as last time. A different bylaw was considered by this council. So I also have joining me in the gallery today members of the Island Health team that have come and given presentations before. They're here today just to answer any questions. So staff and Island Health folks are able to answer any questions. Happy to do that.
Okay, thank you for that. So what we'll do, unless there's any clarification questions about what Director Robinson has just communicated, we'll get first reading on the floor and move through that. And then when we get second reading, and that's when we'll open the floor to questions through to staff and through to the consultants. So I'll get the motion on the floor that the District of Lantzville Official Community Plan Bylaw number 150/2019, Amendment 6910, Lantzville Road Bylaw number 424/2025 be given first reading. Is there a second? Second by Councillor Savage. I'm going to move to calling the question. All those in favor and opposed? That's carried unanimously. And then we'll go to the next reading. So that District of Lantzville's Official Community Plan Bylaw number 150/2019, Amendment 6910, Lantzville Road Bylaw number 424/2025 be given second reading. Is there seconded by Councillor Savage? All right, so at this point, we'll go into debate, which can include questions for staff as well as questions through to the consultants on the project. So at this point, I got nothing really to say, but go ahead, Councillor Savage, if you wish.
Yes, thank you. So I've heard some input on the design of the project, and we certainly, as council, can give input on design. However, it's important we do it within the context that this is a provincial project in the sense that the province is funding 60% of it, and it's being done through a provincial entity, which is the Vancouver Island Health Authority. And the second, so with that, the province has the ultimate authority over zoning. And they've just shown that with Bill 44, that ultimately they do have the authority over our zoning. And the second thing within this context is that the regional hospital, the Nanaimo Regional Hospital District is funding 40% of this. And of that hospital district, Lantzville's population is about 2.24% of the whole population of the hospital district. And while what we'll be paying is going to be related to tax assessed value, my calculation, it's going to be around 1% of the total cost we're paying for it. So in other words, that's the context within which we're, would be commenting on design. And the design is basically done through the Vancouver Island Health Authority, the province, with input very likely by the Nanaimo Hospital Board. But I haven't heard any individual members of the regional district, Parksville, Qualicum, Nanaimo, giving input into the design. So it's important just to know that it's one of those things where we probably have little sway over the design. Having said that, it's my understanding the height was increased to decrease costs of parking and to increase green space. And I'd also like to see, I've heard this being brought up before, the 1.74 acre parcel that's beside the care facility, which VHA now owns. I would like to see that maintained as permanent green space. And one of the reasons for that is for the residents of this facility as well. It would give them an opportunity to get out in nature and walk around, and many residents of these care facilities are able to get out and about for short walks around the area and so on. And the biggest complaint of care facility residents is the lack of family visits, and hence a nice small green area for walking around for visitors might result in more visiting to the site. So, and the other one is the lower night lighting is important. I brought this up when they were here before, and hopefully Director Robinson can represent us in this as things move along, and that is with the lighting, it's important to have it as low as possible for the sake of the residents living there. It's nice to have nice dark skies and quiet darkness at night for sleeping and so on, and also for the neighbors. It's very important not to introduce an overbearing industrial glow from the facility as well. So at any rate, that's my input into it. And with the care facility, I brought that up a number of times with the people in charge of it. And apparently, if it's not full, the daycare with staff kids, whatever spaces are left can be opened up to the general public, is what I was told. And again, maybe Director Robinson can stay on top of that and make sure that that stays the case, because we do have daycare shortages here. Thank you.
Additional speakers, go ahead, Councillor Jones.
Yes, there are a few things that I'd like to talk about. So to the chair, can I ask questions of Director Robinson and Island Health
So as the chair,
tonight?
yeah, you can direct them through me, so through the chair, the
Thank you.
staff, yeah.
So through the chair to Director Robinson, I know their process, I'm a little bit familiar with the process for, shall we say, regular applications, but this is very different because it is a joint application, province, Island Health. So I don't know, there's some information I would council would normally see in applications that I'm not familiar with at this point. So are you able to give any details on some things? For example, the conditions of approval, what would they be for this?
Through
Go
your,
ahead.
through your worship to the councillor, so we're dealing with the official community plan and zoning bylaw amendments right now. Normally, conditions would be attached to the development permit for form and character. So that's where we would go through things like the landscape plan and the lighting plan and the building elevation, final versions and all that kind of stuff. And I understand the Island Health team are working diligently on finalizing those. And it's my sincere hope that we bring those to council in either January or February if possible. So bringing them forward as soon as we can.
Thank you, it's very helpful. And I think this is just a clarification through the chair to Island Health. My recollection was that your reasoning for going to 6 stories had to do with cost, reduced building footprint, but I don't believe you made the claim that there was increased green space. In fact, I think that green space, there's actually reduced because the parking is now above ground. But I may be incorrect. I'm wondering if you could comment to that, and maybe while you're at the mic at the same time, you could answer the question of whether you've considered any dedication of parkland, or through to Director Robinson, is there an exemption for this facility for the provincial parkland requirement?
Okay, so through to the consultant, if you want to come up to the podium, and whoever wishes to do it. And yeah, you know the drill.
Oh, thanks. Through the mayor to the councillor. So while we don't currently have any plans to develop the space to the west of the building now, which is currently treed and is going to remain green space, we aren't planning to provide any dedicated parkland on the property. We are intending to maintain the parcel in its entirety for future healthcare needs in the region. I don't know what those may be at this stage, but we are probably going to propose, currently we have a 5-meter setback on that west property line. we're proposing probably to double that to 10 meters so that there's an enhanced setback there. As part of our project, we are providing, the forested buffer along the north parcel with a public walking trail through that, connecting to a new multi-purpose path along Shook Road that connects both to May Richards Bennett Park as well as to across Lantzville Road into the community there.
Okay. Any follow-ups on
Yeah.
that information?
Thank you for that. So then you have an exemption or can give yourself an exemption to the required 5% parkland dedication? Provincial requirement,
okay.
how
Well,
does
I'll
that work?
Okay, we'll let Director Robinson.
Director
handle that one.
Robinson
Yeah.
speak to that.
Thank you.
Through your worship to the councillor, so the parklands dedication, the 5%, is actually for subdivision of land. So we're not, we don't have a subdivision application. And I know the majority of development applications that come before council, there is a subdivision involved. And so we try to clarify the parkland at an early stage when we're going through, for example, the zoning or the development permit stage before it gets to the subdivision. So in this situation, there is no subdivision. They have one plot of land, they're building a long-term care facility on the middle of that plot of land. So when you're only going through a zoning and development permit process and not a subdivision, there's not really a legal mechanism to receive parkland through the Local Government Act. What you can do, and Diane kind of alluded that, is you can increase side setbacks. And in this case, and I know it's a zoning issue, and we have the OCP bylaw on the table right now, so perhaps we could discuss this at the zoning bylaw stage, and council could make an amendment to that west side setback to increase the setback, because you can't put a building in a setback. So that essentially means that it's neutralizing that space so that they can't build in it. So that was a suggestion that we discussed with the long-term care facility team, is since we can't actually receive parkland as part of this application, maybe increasing that setback to make sure that those trees on that west side can't be built upon would be a good solution.
Any follow-ups, Councillor Jones?
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. I do have a couple more questions and another thing to bring up, but I think we have another person from Island Health who was going to address something, so.
Yeah, I think you had a
just
question
let
about the
you-
footprint of the
Yes,
of the
thank you.
facility. So
Yeah.
in the original design that was through last year, it was a 3-tower arrangement, and it had a much larger central space. So as part of the cost reduction exercise, we've cut that down to 2 towers and squeezed the central space as well. So there's a reduction of about 1/3. So it did lead to that previous configuration had a significant amount pushing into the west side of the property. So we've shrunk all of that back. So it is a significant increase in the unused green space, because there were still circulation roads and parking. There was some surface parking associated with that previous iteration as well. So I think if you compare the 2 plans, you're going to see probably about a 10,000 square meter difference in footprint. So it is a significant increase in the unused green space.
Thank you, appreciate that. And if I may, Councillor Savage mentioned how nice it can be for residents in a long-term care to be able to get out and move around outside a bit, whether they're, being assisted or not, probably assisted in this case. Are you planning a wheelchair network of pathways somehow around or within?
So there's a central courtyard that is directly accessible from the main entry lobby of the building. So that has wheelchair-friendly surfacing for all of the residents to access. So we're actually, all of the pathways would be paved concrete. There's no paving stones that lead to small edges and deviations in the levelness of the surface. So that will be all in around the building. The pathway that we're proposing for the 20-meter buffer zone on the north end of the property, what we were originally looking, is a chip path, is a gravel path preferable. Where it kind of came back to was that an asphalt hard surface path would be the most user-friendly for the residents to get out there. So it'll be for anyone with a walker, mobility aid, or a wheelchair, you're going to have a safe surface to get there. And then the pathways will lead to that. The western portion of the property is intended to be left as grassed space We'll retain the trees, clean it up, but otherwise that's open field. So yeah, we're not intending to put pathways or walkways out in that area.
Thank you very much. And with the change to make the pathway on the north side friendly for the residents, I understand it also connects to the end of the road in the northwest corner there and then over to Shuk Road. So is there going to be a separate path for people who are moving past the facility, or will they come in, use that path, and then go out again?
So the path to the west doesn't exist yet, to my knowledge, because that goes into the north side of the adjacent properties. But we do have a connection point, and until that's in place, we've actually got a bit of a loop because we've got a detention pond as part of our stormwater management system. So that lets any walkers to go out, have a loop around the pond, and then come back. And then at the east side, when it hits Shuk Road, we're proposing a pedestrian crosswalk that would then connect to the park at the north end of Pioneer Park.
Thank you. So the intention is in the future that the path connect to the northwest corner?
If a path is there to connect to, then yes, it will be able to connect to ours.
Okay, so you're not doing the path to the northwest
No,
corner?
we're not. That's not
It
our,
will
it's
be
off
for-
our property.
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you very
correct.
much. Through the chair to, I'm not sure who can answer this, but other questions that have been coming to my ear have to do with the end cost to taxpayers. And I know the cost of this facility has gone up, as everything has over the years. Are you able to give an idea of where it is now so that some calculations can be run and residents have an idea what their monthly, yearly tax bill how much it will be increased for this?
Through the chair to the counselor, I'm not at liberty to share at this point. The process that we have to follow is we continue to do our design. We continue to have our quantity surveyors and our construction managers provide us with updated cost estimates. That goes to the province. They take it to Treasury Board. And once we've got approval from Treasury Board on any additional funding that we may be needing, and get approval from the Capital Project Board, at that point, we'd be able to identify what the budget is. But we are not proposing to come back to the Regional Hospital District to seek any increased funding. So the amount that they've committed to right now is the amount that we expect them to be able to provide to the project.
So I was just going to weigh in on it because I think I'm well adept in this area, and I can probably speak a little bit more freely than our
can.
consultants. So the total project cost was estimated 286 million. The hospital board's commitment is 114 million. That is collected through hospital taxation, separate to residential taxation. Right now, we're sitting at about 100 million in reserves. So, some quick math there, we're only 14 million from paying this complete project out. But we are continuing to tax on an annual basis. And this next year, we'll be probably adding almost another 50 million to reserves through hospital taxation, not residential taxation. But we all pay. If you own a house, you will pay hospital taxes, no doubt about it. So we're all contributing, but this is contributed by the entire region of the regional district in Nanaimo. So. Other than that, I just wanted to do a bit of a point of information. There was an initial design, so we're actually on our third design. So some residents may be aware of that one that was more just a square with a large, whatever, you want a courtyard, yes. That was the original design, and now we're on our third. But it has everything to do with costs. That's why we're where we're at now is costs are necessitating that we go higher with a smaller footprint. So I'll leave my remarks there, but I don't know if you have any further questions about the finances of it.
Thank you. That's really helpful. So residents pay through the hospital tax portion of their taxes, correct? And there is a certain amount, maybe it's around 15 million that's going to need to be run through that system, or is it more,
Well-
I got a little bit lost, and I'm wondering at the end, is there any approximate ballpark number for Lantzville resident tax bill increase?
No, it's Lantzville will not be paying any more taxes towards this project. And I think it's that simple. All the costs are borne through the Nanaimo Regional Hospital District and Island Health for the project.
So,
And
As
and just to finish
residents-
that, and our maximum commitment, financial commitment through the board or hospital board is 114 million. And I think Diane, sorry, Ms. McKay, has already referred to that, like they're not going to be coming back to the board for another nickel. That'll all be, the cost will all be borne by the province essentially.
okay, thank you.
All right.
I
Oh,
do
you
have
got-
a little
yep.
bit more if I can,
Yep.
if I can. Thank you very much. I appreciate your patience. I know that there's consultation with other jurisdictions that are required. However, I haven't seen any summary of the feedback from City of Nanaimo, from Ministry of Transportation, so through to Director Robinson, or maybe it's for Island Health, I'm not sure. Can you give us some verbal report on the feedback from consultation with other jurisdictions, please?
Of course. Haven't received anything formal from the Ministry of Transportation, but ever since the public service went on strike earlier this year, they've been exceedingly slow in providing responses. Not to slight them at all, but that's just been my experience. We've been engaging with the City of Nanaimo extensively on this project. They're very much in support of the facility, and they will be commenting on the frontage works along Shook Road as part of the development permit process. So you'll see some comments from the city as part of that process as well.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. The City of Nanaimo will be commenting on something on Shook Road?
So Shook Road is along the municipal boundary between City of Nanaimo and Lantzville. And so we'll be circulating them with the development permit plans. So you will see some comments from the City of Nanaimo on the frontage works along the Shook Road frontage of the project.
Thank you. I was a little bit wondering about that. I think there's a district road right-of-way there, perhaps an additional 10 meters over the width of the current road. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's already been conveyed to the district.
And will that then, Island Health, be putting that into road use so that the vehicles, trucks, fire trucks, whatever, can move in and out with a little more space?
Road design discussion, I understand, with the city is ongoing. So again, we'll have that information for you at the development permit stage.
Thank you, but if there is a need, it will be done with this project, not at district
The Island Health,
expense
it'll come out of the
down the road.
Island Health budget, not
Yeah,
from the district
not
budget.
ours.
Yes.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Does somebody else want to speak? Then I have one more thing after. I'll take a little break here, thanks.
Councillor Mundell, do you wish to speak or you have any questions? Or debate? You can always argue this or either way.
I think I'm good for now.
Okay. Councillor Savage and then myself.
Yeah, quick question through chair to Director Robinson. The next motions on zoning would be the time to discuss the setback issue on that small property, correct?
That's correct, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
My question has to do with just the average height of the tree canopy in the northern portion of the lot. So when the site assessment was completed, do we have an estimate or of the heights of those trees? So if you could share that, that'd be fantastic. Through to the consultants.
Yeah, we've got drone scan of the heights of the trees, so that's shown on it will be reflected on the development permit drawings. So it's comparable, it's a little bit under the top of the building, but it's coming up to about the 5th floor on the existing trees.
So ballpark figure, are we talking like maybe 80 feet or? I know there's the meters.
They're about 18 meters,
Okay.
give or take. Probably a little higher than that.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to get nitpicky. I was just curious because when I actually look at the.
Over 20, sorry, that's, yeah, around 20 meters.
About 20 meters, okay.
call it
so-
that.
Yeah, okay, good, okay. Yeah, the only reason I bring it up is just with respect to the top of the 6th floor and that, I guess, the northern building, the back of it, I think it works out to be about 20, if I interpreted it correctly, which I believe I have, it's 25.5 meters, which is about 84 feet. So, so it sounds like the 6th floor will be a little bit higher than the tree canopy, but I'm just looking at for like sight lines. So I know there's concerns from the adjacent properties.
Yeah,
that
so
there's-
your 6th floor will be just a bit above the top of those mature firs. but we're also about 37 meters back from the property line, so it's quite a significant different distance. So someone standing in the backyard of a house on Roslyn, you're not gonna see the top of that building. And that over the peak height of it is isolated to two center cores where the elevators pop up, so that's even further back. So you're tacking another 20 to 25 meters on top of that to see those absolute highest points.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, like my son's doing trigonometry and Pythagoras theorem, so I was doing a little bit of a mock-up at home on it, and but again, what I didn't know was the actual height of the average height of the tree canopy, because obviously that's a critical piece of information when you're doing that kind of trig, and I didn't want to go on site and try and start measuring angles and doing cosine, tangent, and all that fun stuff. But anyways, I'll leave it there. Thank you for your comments, Councillor Jones. I think you had more.
I do have more. It does have to do with more in the bylaw number of 248, Schedule C, which is the notice requirements. And I guess, Director Robinson, do you have this bylaw? I wonder if it'd be handy if you just draw it up so you can refer to it, because I have a question.
Just bear with me.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead.
Section 1.0 is called timing of the notice, and under 1.0, section 1.1, it says the notice shall be posted a minimum of 10 days prior to either a public information meeting or public consultation event on the proposed development, if required by the District of Lantzville, or the application advancing to the District of Lantzville Council, whichever is first occurring. So through to Director Robinson, your interpretation of that, whichever is first occurring, please.
We're doing first reading of the bylaws tonight, so that's the first thing that's occurring. So these are brand new bylaw numbers. We've ran this issue past legal counsel, and Director Wells can confirm that we are on the right side of the bylaw.
Awesome, that's good news. So I have I guess I should put it as a motion, I'm not sure, but this is what happened. Council passed the previous plan for 3 stories, and it went to public information session, which was great. Well, what we passed is what I thought was going to public information session, but in fact, what went to public information session was 6 stories. I didn't even know that. I didn't go to the public information session myself. I found this out after others had been and were surprised. My concern is that the information going out to the community, because of the changes in the plan along the way, there's been some confusion about things, and for the most part, the 6-story did not get out to the community after we looked at 6 stories. We had only looked at 3, then the information sessions were on 6. What I want to suggest here is that one more information session be added, because the community is very much, from what I can see, the majority is very supportive of a long care facility. There's no denying the need for it, but so many people are thinking it's 3 stories and they're just hearing, oh, it's 6, it's 6. And if it is going to be 6, it's going to be 6, but maybe that needs to go through another information session just to get the word out a little bit more. I think this would be a very, very helpful communication and effort, gesture maybe to the community to do that. So I wanted to know, do I need to do this by motion to councils for a council debate, or would Island Health like to respond to that now? Basically, would you be willing to do another information session to the community? So the plan as we see it, which is quite different from the original one, can give residents an opportunity to get the information.
Okay, so through to the consultants, I do hear questions has been posed about doing that. If you wish to answer that, you can, or you don't. If you don't want to answer that at this time, you don't have to. It's up to you.
Thanks for the proposal. I think we'd like to take that away and think about the implications to the timing of the approvals and the project and what that may entail, and then come back to council.
Okay. So we got second reading of the bylaw, and then after that, through the staff process, if you want to maybe explain it, I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but just so for the benefit of everybody in the room and those watching.
Of course, Your Worship. So we have 4 motions on this item on your agenda tonight. First and second reading of the official community plan amendments, first and second reading of the zoning bylaw amendments, and then the last motion there is that a public hearing for the official community plan amendment and zoning bylaw be scheduled. So typical development process is you do your first 2 readings of the bylaw, you hold a public hearing after sending out notice to the community. After the public hearing is closed, council is prohibited from receiving any further public input, and third reading is conducted. At a separate meeting, has to be at least 1 day from third reading, the bylaw is set for adoption. So there's 4 readings of the bylaw plus a public hearing.
Okay, thank you for that overview. Yeah, so I'll just kind of comment on what was just brought up by Councillor Jones. In my view, I don't think that's required because we will be having a public hearing. However, in terms of notifying the community so everybody can fully engage in that public hearing process, there's a couple options. One is that there'll be a newsletter going out, or the community update going out at the beginning of January, and we can clearly advertise in that on the front page that this public or this long-term care center rezoning application will be going forward. And I'm assuming that will it be the second meeting in January through staff for the public hearing, or would it be the first?
Your Worship, we have some flexibility in those January meetings. We have it tentatively scheduled for the January 14th meeting. So if the motion to schedule a public hearing after the 2 second readings is done tonight, staff will immediately begin preparation to send the notices out, and we will include it in the January newsletter.
And just for the process of sending out notices, is that, can you explain that? Like, who are the notices going to?
Of course, Your Worship. Typically, it's within 60 meters of the subject site. We could increase the radius if council directs, and we could, we'll also be posting notice on the district's website.
Okay, thank you for that. And sorry, I kind of knew the answer, but for the benefit of everybody here, it's good to get that information out. Okay, so, again, it can go into community update, and the other option, and council has heard me say this before, for whatever, $400-500 so dollars, we can send out a notice to the entire community, a 1-page flyer announcing that this is going to be happening on a certain date, and with the information of how to get to the web page and what links to click on and so forth to get the information as related to this long-term care facility application. So, for a mere $500 or so, that could be a way of getting it out to the community. I personally am of the view, I think a lot of people in our community know this is happening. It's been on the books for a long time now. It's been in the media, it's been social media, even the 6-story piece of it. So, but I'm okay with doing additional advertising when we get to that later part of this evening, and ensuring that everybody in the community is fully apprised of what's going on. So I'll leave it there, but I'm going to move to calling. Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Jones, if you wish.
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate those ideas, Mayor Swain, and I fully support them. Also, a little bit cognizant that we do have a bylaw here, and I am still confused as to whether there is compliance. As Director Robinson said, of those 2 things, whichever comes first, public information meeting or the application to council, Director Robinson said, well, it's the application to council. And yes, the notices went up 10 days before this coming to us tonight. But that means the public information sessions, which were held prior, were held under a different plan or a different application. And so they haven't been held, and they need to be held before public hearings. So this is a legal thing, and I really can't weigh in on it. I'm just saying I'm concerned, would like to know, what the correct process is here legally, because I'm not able to, put my hand up in support if, without knowing for sure what the legal implications are of this. So I just leave it at that because I can't weigh in anymore. It's not my expertise.
Director Wells?
Thank you, Your Worship. So when we reviewed this with legal counsel, we went over all of the details that are noted in Schedule C. And the whole point of bringing these bylaws back to first and second reading was to make sure that we comply with the bylaw. So I appreciate that the public information meetings were held after the earlier readings of the bylaw, and basically we're restarting that process. So I hear what you're saying, but there's nothing wrong with the new process that we're using now. We've done it specifically to comply with the bylaw.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Jones.
Thank you, I understand that. So certainly no issue right now. But going forward, what I'm seeing is that public information session, which I believe our district requires, needs to happen before a public hearing. Because the public information sessions that happened before, the notice wasn't up for those. So we're looking at the second, either it coming to council, and there's full compliance now with the notice. It's great. I saw the date and the location. Everything was on there as it should be. But I think what's triggered now is the need for a public information meeting. Did legal weigh in on that?
So all of that is indicated in Schedule C, as you know. And so by bringing the bylaws back for first and second reading, we have already had the public information meetings associated to this project, although they were done when the other bylaws were given their readings. We're just trying to correct for the signage issue here, that's all.
Thank you. So again, maybe this is for legal, but it says the notice shall be posted a minimum of 10 days prior to either, and we've got it 10 days prior to the application advancing to the district. That means that the public information meetings haven't happened, because if we're assuming they have happened, then there was not compliance because there was no notice up when the public information meetings took place.
So the earlier public information meetings that were held, they do comply with the bylaw that's here. I know that we're talking about the 10 days prior. So the purpose of redoing the first and second reading is to correct for that signage issue. So there wasn't an issue with when the public information meetings happened. Those had already occurred. But you're saying you think that they should be basically redone now, is what my understanding is.
I'm raising that question, yes, because I don't know, and I can't legally interpret this. I don't have that expertise, and I want to make sure that the district doesn't fall on the wrong side of this. We know that that can not go down well if we do. So that's why I was just suggesting that to not just cover our bases here, but also, I think, kind of doing the right thing for the community by having another information session after we, as a council, have, passed the reading on the 6 stories. Because like I say, when the last information session was after we had passed just 3 stories, even though 6 was presented, that was a little bit of, process there that is just confusing to people. So I think it would all work out just fine if one more information session was put in now, and it gives residents an opportunity to come look at things in more detail. I do appreciate that many know, thank you, Facebook, but we don't govern based on Facebook. So our obligation is to the community and residents, and I just think it would be very helpful to put that in at this stage. Maybe it is also legally required, that part I don't know.
Your Worship, we will double check with legal counsel and make sure that all of this is cleared up prior to the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. And I do have a kind of a follow-up question to this matter through to Director Robinson. Is there a statutory requirement that we must hold the information sessions?
No, Your Worship.
Okay, so I think that's the answer I need. All right, through to council. Oh, sorry, Councilor Mundell. You guys did see your hand go up earlier. Go for it.
Thanks. Yeah, after Councillor Jones brings up those points, it does make me wonder if we should be making sure we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's here on this one. And I'm not sure that I feel comfortable proceeding if there are some processes that need to be clarified. I want to make sure that this moves ahead in the right order. And it sounds like maybe something, the cart might be coming before the horse in some steps here. So I do I would like to, our team, our staff to look into that to make sure that we are, again, following the right steps before I feel like I'd be comfortable proceeding.
Yeah, and through to Councilor Mandel and to the rest of the council, I believe staff did already say that if there's any issues that they would come back to us in January and we would not proceed with the public hearing if anything is out of order. But everything that they're telling us is everything is in order and we should be proceeding with these bylaws this evening. So staff believes that they're telling or informing us is correct, and I asked the question. Even with these public information sessions, they are not a statutory requirement. There's no law being broken by not having those, unless I'm wrong, Director Robinson. Are we breaking any laws by not having these public information sessions? Because I'm not aware if that's something that's breaking the law.
Through Your Worship, I'm not aware of anything about that either. I'm just going through Bylaw 37, 2005. There's no reference to those being required for these applications. Perhaps a solution for council would be that when you get to direction about the public hearing is that you maybe request that the applicant hold an additional information session prior to a public hearing. They could maybe do it in the first week of January as like a courtesy. That would be recommendation number 5 in the report if you want to discuss it at that time.
Sure, thank you. All right, so I think we've gone around enough on this one. I'm going to move to calling the question on second reading. So all those in favor and opposed, noting Councilor Mandel and Councilor Jones are opposed, it fails on a tie vote. Yeah, that's what happens. It fails on tie vote.
As a point of order, please.
What's your point of order?
I'm wondering if we can go back to second reading and make a motion to request a public information meeting. And then when that's done, we can re-vote on second reading. I just don't want a second reading to fail over this. So why don't we just request that a public information and then reconsider the second reading?
Well, we've heard from staff, Councilor Savage, a public information session is not required. I feel going back on this vote is disrespectful to 2 members of council that have clearly casted their vote and against this, moving this forward. So my recommendation is we wait until we have the full complement of council here on January 15th. We bring it back for reconsideration, and if we have 2/3, I think it's 2/3, then this application doesn't have to wait for another 6 months to reapply. And I think I'm interpreting everything correctly. We've made a vote, and and council has to realize the gravity of their votes. Actually, I think at this point, let's call for a 5-minute recess. Yeah, I'm gonna call for a 5-minute recess. We'll reconvene 7. At this point, we're going to move on to 7C in our agenda. So we have the Nanaimo City Plan referral. And, oh, thank you, Director. Yeah, we're just back to 7C, Director Robinson. So the Nanaimo City Plan referral.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think the report is pretty self-explanatory. It's standard procedure when amending an official community plan to circulate neighboring jurisdictions and government agencies. We circulated the City of Nanaimo, our recently amended housing and housekeeping update to the OCP. And so the city is basically doing the same thing with us. Staff have reviewed the policies contained in the proposed amendments to the Nanaimo City Plan. Oh, sorry, sir. And there's no direct conflicts with either strategic or policy priorities contained in our OCP. We're just recommending a motion that says in your agenda, just no comment. But if you wanted to make any comments, staff could forward the amended resolution onto the City of Nanaimo if desired. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that. So through to council, any questions through to Director Robinson? Okay, hearing none. I'll get the motion on the floor that the District of Lantzville has no comments on the proposed amendments to the City of Nanaimo Plan Amendment Bylaw 2025, number 6600.002. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Savage. Yeah. Councillor Savage, did you second? Okay, sorry, just making sure. For myself, no significant, comments. Clearly, there's a tremendous amount of detail that has been provided in our agenda, and yeah, it's where does one start? Taking that deep dive into all the work that's been done in the city of Nanaimo. So, at first glance, for me, I have no comment myself. Through the seconder, if you wish. Through the rest of the council. Councillor Mundell, go ahead.
I just want to make the comment that this report is really, really well done, and that I'm just impressed with the quality and standard that Nanaimo leads with here. So just was really good, a well-written report with lots of good information. Implications were well understood. So I actually enjoyed reading it. So very, very well done report.
Any additional comments? Okay, hearing nothing, I'll move then to call in question. All those in favor and opposed, that is carried unanimously. That takes us on to the next item. So District of Lantzville 2025 to 2029 Financial Plan Bylaw number 405 2025, Amendment Bylaw number 423 2025. Director Sapola, is there anything to introduce with this, or?
No, sir, there's nothing. This is just a housekeeping item where we're amalgamating all the motions that council passed to amend the budget into the bylaw now.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So I'll get the first one on the floor, that the District of Lantzville 2025-2029 Financial Plan Bylaw number 405 2025 Amendment Bylaw number 423 2025 be given first reading. Second by Councillor Savage. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. That the District of Lantzville 2025-2029 Financial Plan Bylaw number 405 2025 Amendment Bylaw number 423 2025 be given second reading. Is there a second? A second by Councillor Savage. Discussion on this. For myself, I'm fine. Councillor Savage.
Yeah, so with the $7 million loan that's included with this, it runs through a lot of the numbers there. It is a placeholder so we can get on with the grant application, but my expectation is to have it nowhere near that amount if we're successful with the grant. And through chair to staff, please, what is the funding formula for the grant? Is it 50%? Is there a certain percent Lantzville is expected to pay, or is it just a lump sum regardless of the total cost?
Through your worship, It is 100% up to a maximum of $7 million. And then it's, we're responsible for anything that exceeds the 7 million.
Okay, thank you. So if we can trim the cost down, then that $7 million grant stays as it is. Yeah, great. Okay, that's terrific. And second question through to staff, have we yet emailed for a legal opinion on what can be built on the Clark Med 5 acres in consideration it was received as an amenity from development? For example, is housing possible or an office building to defray costs of the fire hall?
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Robinson.
Through your worship to the counselor, yes, we have requested an opinion from the legal counsel. We have not received it yet.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Jones.
Yes, through the chair to Director Sapola. So the grant that has been applied for is for 7 million. That's wonderful. The placeholder is for 14 million. I have no intention of supporting $14 million facility, fire hall facility. We'll see what the will of council is, but my question to you is, do we have to have a placeholder for 14 million when maybe council is looking at a lower number for approval?
Through your worship, I'm amalgamating motions into the financial plan. It's definitely something that can be discussed once we get word of the grant. If council wishes to go through the exercise of recosting the building or reducing the size of the building, as Councillor Savage alluded to, that would be in the 2026 budget discussions. That could be possible there. This is just following the legislated requirements to have a financial plan in place, and these are the motions that were passed by council previously.
I see, thank you. That helps clarify that. So I'll just go on record for looking forward to having that conversation, as 14 million will require a $7 million loan that the district has to take out, and council certainly needs to review that at a later date, as you say. So thank you.
Anything further before I call the question? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. And then that District of Lantzville 2025 to 2029 financial plan bylaw number 405, 2025, amendment bylaw number 423, 2025 be given third reading. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Savage. Anything further from council? Okay, hearing nothing, I'll move to calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried unanimously. All right, so any lead items to be introduced this evening? There is one from Councillor, well, like I said, he's not here, so there's a piece of paper with his name on it, but nonetheless, there's a motion here that has to do with the housekeeping OCP amendment that was passed last meeting. And so I think everybody's fully aware of it, and it has to do with removing the words target 100 units from the land use summary tables and some of the special plan areas. So that's the item. So we can just vote now whether or not we're going to accept it as a late item. So I'll call the question on accepting as late item. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. All right, so I'll just read the motion out, and then that's on the floor. That council directs staff to bring forward an amendment to the official community plan adopted on November 26, 2025 to remove the words target 100 units from the land use summary tables referencing senior supportive housing in all special plan areas except for the Village South special plan area where these words will remain. So is there a second? A second by Councillor Savage. I have nothing to add. I think there's been lengthy discussion at the previous meeting on this, not to belabor it, but we can debate it. I think it's going to get unanimous support. So with that being said, anything further from council? Council, okay. I'll call the question on that late item, or well, now it's on the floor. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Any other late items? Councillor Savage?
Yes, I've got one, please. And with respect to it, through chair to staff, is there a method where two councillors can bring back a reconsideration of the matter of second reading on the care facility?
So I'm just going to read straight from the procedure bylaw here. So it says that the key point is reconsideration of a defeated matter may not be taken at the same meeting at which the motion was decided unless council so resolves by unanimous consent. So that's where you'd be at right now.
Okay, I propose then as a late item that we vote to reconsider that, and then right after that, I'm prepared to make a motion that we hold a public information meeting before the public hearing.
Okay, so that's, so that would be the, kind of the gist of the late item motion, more or less reconsideration. So it really, it'd be the reconsideration, and then you would be doing a separate motion after, if we're gonna go through all those readings.
Yep.
But, the bylaws, but right now, the bylaws are dead in the water because the
Yeah.
second reading of the OCP failed, so. All right, so that's what we're voting on as a late item, so I'll call the question. All those in favor and opposed? Okay, that's carried unanimously to hear that as a late item, but it would be the reconsideration, Councillor Savage.
Yep.
So,
So I move that council reconsiders the motion that District of Lantzville Official Community Plan Bylaw number 150, 2019, Amendment 6910, Lantzville Road, Bylaw number 424, 2025 be given second reading. And right after that, I'll make the motion about the public information meeting.
okay, so it's a reconsider me, and we do need a seconder to that, right? Yeah. Yeah, so I'll second that, and then, and any discussion. I think we just go straight to a vote. There's no discussion. A little bit gray on that.
Well, what
This is to reconsider. though,
that's right.
yeah.
You just need unanimous consent for the reconsideration at this point.
Yeah, okay, so, all right, so the motion's on the floor. It's been moved and seconded to reconsider a second reading of that OCP bylaw amendment for the long-term care facility. So I will move then to call into question on that. All those in favor and opposed? Okay, so that's carried unanimously. All right, so that is now is on the floor. So we have to deal with that first, Councillor Savage. So
Okay.
that's on the floor for a second reading. Is there any further debate on second reading? Councillor Savage?
No, I just want to reiterate, I'll be making a motion right after this, if we pass this, that, instructing staff to arrange a public information meeting on the care facility before the public hearing.
Okay. Councillor Jones?
Yes, I think this is a solution. It certainly gets out of what might be a legal issue. We don't know, and that's why I had to put my vote where I did, because I'm not going to get us as a district into a legal problem when it's staring me in the face that there could be one. Hopefully there isn't, but this solves that problem. It solves another problem, which is that I think the information needs to get out there to the public properly. So another information session and not over the holidays. I think we'll put things on a much better course with the community as well.
Anything further from council? For myself, and just kind of more or less reiterating, I have no concerns here. I believe staff have done a very good job in preparing this bylaw. They've taken all the necessary steps. They've heard that there's no statutes being broken here with respect to, you know, this whole necessity to hold a public information session. So, you know, I think we'll hear a motion later and about that, but you know, it's, I think we should be giving a second reading and allowing it to proceed to public hearing. So I'll leave my remarks there. Anything further from council? All right, I'll move to call in a question. All those in favor and opposed, that is carried unanimously. So I'll get the next motion on the floor. Just hold on, there's two more to go. that the District of Lantzville zoning bylaw number 180/2020 amendment 6910 Lantzville Road bylaw number 425/2025 be given first reading. Second by Councillor Savage. This is just to introduce it. I will move to call in the question. All those in favor and opposed, that is carried unanimously. That District of Lantzville zoning bylaw number 180/2020 amendment 6910 Lantzville Road bylaw number 425/2025 be given second reading. Second by Councillor Savage. For myself, there's really not much to get into here for myself this evening. I prefer to have the public hearing before any amendments are made to this section of, to the zoning bylaw that's being proposed. I know there's been some discussion about the setbacks on the west side of the property, maybe increasing that, but my preference would be hold the, well, public hearing for sure. But if there's going to be an additional input session, let's hold that first before council suggests doing any amendments to the zoning bylaw. That's just my preference. Councillor Savage?
Yes, and through chair to staff, with, at some point, be it after the public hearing, if we were to make a motion on setbacks, what form would you like that, just to direct staff to come up with appropriate setbacks for the neighboring property for, preserving more green space, or what would you suggest?
Through your worship to the councillor, so if you look at attachment 4, which is a zoning bylaw amendment, Schedule 1 to bylaw 425/2025 is the zone. In section 2 of that zone, it's east and west parcel lines 5 meters. And so what you heard from the applicant this morning is they'd be able and willing to go keep the east at 5 meters, but increase the west. And that's the area where the green space is on the west side of the site. Increase the west setback to 10 meters instead of 5 meters. So if you wanted to make that amendment now, that would be part of the consultation that would go out to the community. Or if you wanted to make that at third reading, you could also make that amendment at that time.
Okay, so what you're suggesting then is to increase the setback on the western boundary to 10 meters?
That's what the applicant had suggested today, since there's no real process to have parkland as part of this provincial facility, would be to increase the setback, and that just means that they can't build in that portion of the site, so that'll de facto preserve those trees.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. I'll make the following amendment then to the this second reading. And that is actually, I've got a different way of doing it. Instead of this, I'll do it as a separate motion after this motion here.
Okay, any additional debate, comment on second reading? Zoning bylaw? I guess I do have a question through to Director Robinson. Is the 10 meters, I know it's quite a large area, but would that be enough to basically stop another building being constructed on the west side of the property?
It would definitely narrow the envelope that they could fit another building in there if that was your concern in the future. So if you wanted to increase it to 10 meters, it would definitely reduce the area that they could. There is still some space in there, but it would limit the size of something that could come forward in the future.
And for myself, just kind of thinking it out a little bit here, like that's also something that, down the road, the landowner could come back to a future council of the day and ask for a relaxation on that so they can construct. So I don't know if necessarily this is going to solve the issue of trying to retain vegetative buffer on that side of the property. For me, what makes most sense is not to have parkland, because if it's parkland, that can be really tough to regulate, because then it's now, you know, public property, whereas I'd rather see it stay as private property, and we could probably ask to have a covenant registered on title that the western section of that property, or and probably map it out or whatever, be retained as a vegetative buffer and you know, perpetuity, you know, and leave it at that. I think the setback is just is temporary, and I like long term. I don't think it gives any certainty. So that's kind of why I'm suggesting let's leave this alone until we have the public hearing, and perhaps if the applicant is in agreement of doing another information session, and get that information back or feedback before making amendments to the zoning, like to the setbacks. Because again, I don't think the setback is gonna be a long-term solution, but I'll leave it to council to decide. Councillor Jones?
I hear what you're saying with issues with parkland and the fact that a setback can always be reversed with a variance application going through council. Are there other alternatives, like securing it as a conservation area? Or I think that was mentioned at one point when we had a similar discussion in the past.
Director Robinson, about the conservation area?
Yeah, Your Worship. I think it's definitely an option. Again, we have the ability to register covenants at the development permit stage, so maybe that's that would be a discussion that we could have with the applicant and see if they'd be amenable to register something like that at the DP stage.
Okay. All right, Councillor Savage, do you still want to proceed ahead with?
No, I've got a separate motion after we
Okay,
deal with
sure.
this. Thank you.
All right, so I'll move then, call in question on second reading. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. And then the next one is that a public hearing for official community plan amendment bylaw number 424/2025 and zoning bylaw amendment bylaw number 425/2025 be scheduled. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Savage. We've heard from staff this evening, council, that that would be slated for the 14th of January. So that would be the intended date for the public hearing. So other than that, I'll leave it there, and then we can have a follow-up motion dealing with if we're going to do a public information session. Councillor Savage is seconder.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I'll just amend this motion by inserting at the end of it and before the public hearing, council directs staff to hold a public information meeting. On the care facility.
All right, do we have a seconder to that? Second by Councillor Jones, and then discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Savage.
No, I think we've covered it
Jones?
pretty well. Thank you.
Yes, I support that, but I can't amend an amendment, so afterwards I would like to rein in the date so that this isn't over the holidays, so not between December 18th and January 4th, something like that would be my intention.
You probably wouldn't need an amendment. I can tell you right now, staff won't be scheduling it. So, yeah, they'll be doing the first week of January. But go ahead, Director Robinson.
For council's information, I'm on vacation during that time period. I got a lot of banked hours I need to use before the end of the year.
There you go.
So yes, it would be the first week back in January.
All right. Yeah, not that I don't have a problem personally with the amendment. I just, to me, I didn't get the sense that the applicant was, you know, they have to contemplate it, and this seems like it's a very forceful motion saying it's that you know, we're directing it to be held. So, you know, I guess through the council, what if they come back and say, well, we don't really want to hold it because we're going to be doing a public hearing? What do we do with that? So, Councillor Savage?
Well, staff can have an information meeting. Doesn't have to be the VHA.
Okay. So, all right. So whether it's, I guess, we don't need to amend the death out of this thing, but as long as staff understands what the intent of the motion is, that's all I need. Counselor Jones?
Well, good, thank you.
All right, unless there's anything further, I'll call the question on an amendment. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. And back to the main motion as amended. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. And then Counselor Savage, yeah?
Yes, thank you. This is just a quick follow-up motion that council direct staff to explore options for preserving the green space to the west of the care facility.
Okay, I'll second that. And then discussion. Go ahead, Counselor Savage. Yeah, it's just options, so that's, and I guess in terms of timing, we want to have that back when, like, do we want to set an expectation, like, before the 14th?
Well, at any time would be fine for me. Could be before third reading, doesn't really. I just want to make sure it's consulted so that everyone's happy with it, including VHA and so on, so.
Maybe through to staff, how quickly could something like that be turned around? I don't think it needs to be a big, long report, but just kind of just briefly outlining some options. Could that be done like within the first week of January, or is that a tall ask?
Your worship, I think we could likely work something out. It would just depend on what kind of response we got back from the health authority about where that would be. And they're also in the process of doing a tree survey, so maybe having that information to understand where the mature trees are existing on the site would be useful to determine where that kind of conservation area that council's desiring would be. So I'm not sure if that'll be ready for the 14th or where they are in that, but I can definitely pursue it.
It's just, the concern is after the public hearing and council's consideration of new information and so forth. That's, I think, the tricky part. I'm sure you can appreciate, and also for the public.
Sorry, Your worship,
That's
I'm
okay.
just
I'll let you
clarifying
have
with
your
the corporate
sidebar.
office.
I know it's on the spot, but it's important, so.
Thank you for waiting, Your worship. I think we've sorted it out.
Okay.
We can do an information report before the public hearing on the 14th.
Okay, and what I would offer, and I'm hopeful that maybe council will, or quorum of council would be available, is I could call for a special meeting in the first week of January, and just for the purposes of receiving that report, so we can get it on the public record. Because that's, I'm guessing, what the issue is, getting that onto the public record prior to the 14th. So in my opinion, earlier the better, but if staff feels that that's sufficient, doing it on the 14th, we can have that conversation at some point. Okay, we got options. Councillor Jones?
Yep, thank you for that, Mayor Swain, and through the chair to staff, could you be in touch with VIHA immediately regarding what has transpired since they left, please?
Through your worship to the councillor, I'm on it.
Okay. All right. I will move to calling question. I don't think we amended, did we? No. Oh, we did. What did we amend?
You have a new motion on the floor now about.
Well, I
just
know
the-
we have a new
yeah.
motion,
Yeah.
but I didn't think we amended it. No. Okay. Yeah, never mind. It's just getting late. I've had a very long day. Anyways, I'll leave it there. So I'll move then to call in question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. All right, so now we went back to and completed 7B of the agenda. We're now bouncing back to where we had left off, and that's basically notices of motion. Any notices of motion? Public clarification, so persons recognized by the chair must speak must first state their name and address for the record and the agenda item for which they are seeking clarification, and may speak once for up to 2 minutes to ask clarification questions. For example, how did the vote go? Inquire regarding about any technicalities, request interpretations or of abbreviations or jargon used during the meeting. So if there's anybody that has any public clarification questions, this is your time. Okay, seeing nobody going to the microphone, we'll move to item 12, so a motion to close the meeting so that the regular council meeting be closed to the public pursuant to sections 91 C, D, K, and hold on here. Don't know if we have them all, because we don't have the ones that were carried forward. I should have grabbed. Yeah, I do too, but I don't have the. Usually it's on the open meeting agenda. Says, oh, we'll complete the motion here in a moment. Just the ones from the 26th. Okay.
Want the actual motions?
No, that doesn't do it. I need the actual corresponding sections of the community charter. So we're closing the meeting pursuant to section 90 C, D, K, and then Deputy Long, if you can just state the remainder, please.
A.
Oh, and A, that's it. We're just missing A. Thank you, appreciate that. I'll need a seconder. Seconded by Councillor Savage. I'll move to calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. What do we have for time? So it's 7:57, so we'll just